And we are live.
So it's on. All right, let's go.
Yeah, we are on. I'm just gonna everybody share it. Make sure you share it to your personal page.
Okay. Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Where is it at? Did I do the right one?
Erica, some sometimes I'll see your post with your pictures at the beach. Remind me which beach is
Uh-huh.
that? Which beach is that? Jack's Beach.
Yeah, that's Jack's Beach.
Okay, gotcha.
Jackson. Well, I've been going to Atlantic Beach lately
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, okay.
on the other end.
All right.
All
All right.
right, guys. We are live. We are here. How y'all doing?
I'm well rested, ready to get at it. I missed you guys.
I know, right? Had a couple of weeks. We had a couple of weeks off, and we back at it. All right. So, welcome to the what's. Oh, wait a minute. Let me put the little stuff. Put the little stuff in the back. Welcome to the What's Love podcast, y'all.
Yeah,
There we
man.
go. Welcome to the What's Love podcast, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. Coming at you on a different night tonight because I had some things going on yesterday, so we had to push it to today. But we still here. We in the place. If
Yep.
you are joining us, then go ahead and drop your. Tell us where you are joining us from, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, man.
I got to get the background together, guys. Um, let's start off. Anybody got an affirmation?
All is well, and all will be well. So that's me.
All is well and all will be well. That's good. So I was walking Bentley today and I was just reflecting
Mhm.
on some of the things that I have going on. And I had to remind myself the power lies within you.
Hmm. This is true. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
Erica has a little bit of a delay.
So, yeah, I know. um, for me, it's trust the timing.
That's
Like
good.
that's what I remind myself on a regular basis, is to trust the timing.
Trust
That's
the
good.
timing.
Mm-hmm.
You are
Okay,
where
y'all.
you're supposed to be.
And that
Yeah.
goes for things that are in your control, things that are not in your control.
Yep. That's good. All right, y'all. If you have an affirmation, go ahead and drop
Hmm.
it in the comments. Share your affirmation with us. Um, and don't forget to let us know where you
You're
are
breaking up a little
tuning in
bit.
from. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Okay, guys. Also, too, before we get started, make sure you share this video with your friends, with your family, with your people on your Facebook page. You can also catch us on YouTube now. All right. You can catch this video on YouTube as well. But make sure you just click like, go
Erica.
go like the What's Love podcast and share it to your page, okay? Invite more people to the party. You can't hear me, Barry? Barry, can you hear me? All right, it seems like we have some technical difficulties going on tonight. Erica, you good?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you're good now.
I can hear, but
I
it's
can't hear
a
you
little bit
guys.
staticky.
Okay, Barry, you good? So Barry can't hear us. All right, we're gonna keep on going. We're gonna let Barry work that out. Okay. Excuse me. We're gonna let Barry work that out. Erica. So let me just bring the people up to
Yes.
let me just bring the people up to speed, right? So we all know what's been going on, okay? We all know what's been going on with the protesting,
Right.
with George Floyd, and we all know what's been going on with that. So the reason why we did not come last week and stream live is because last Tuesday was Blackout Tuesday, and even though some people chose to participate, some people didn't. I felt like it was important for us to participate and not. I didn't get on social media that day, so I felt like it was important to participate in that and to not broadcast during Blackout Tuesday last week. So we just wanted to let everybody know that is why we weren't here last week. But I kind of want to check in with you guys really quickly, and this is a very important topic to talk about. So I kind of just want to check in with you guys this week and see like what's going on. Like Erica, like get your opinions. Erica, I saw that you were out protesting in Jacksonville. Prior to the people, I wish you would have called me, girl, because I surely would have went down there with you. Um, but Erica was out there protesting, and it's just a lot going on. So how y'all feeling about everything before we get into the conversation of relationships? I think it's important for us to kind of touch on how y'all feeling about everything.
I'll let Erica go first. I know I normally jump in. Go ahead, Erica.
Okay. Okay. For me, it's I think I felt all kinds of emotions. It's the pride in seeing people being willing to take the time that we were given from being in place because of Corona. Everything slowed down. People weren't as busy as they normally are to immediately act, and I could appreciate that. So in that sense, it definitely made me proud to see people ready to get out. Now, what occurred that preceded that broke my heart, because in a way it's traumatizing for some and re-traumatizing for others, because we don't really see images of other people the way we saw the image of George Floyd. We don't see other people taking their last breaths like that. Or when I say other people other than Black people, that's not something that we're seeing. So, in that moment, it's like, your heart sinks and you're angered. And so in the immediate aftermath, I found myself kind of defending people that were out and just expressing that anger.
Yeah.
Now, the way they did it, no, it wasn't productive. It was definitely destructive. But at the same time, I could understand where it was coming from. For a lot of people, it's coming from a place of pain and pent up pain in a lot of cases. So there's been a whole roller coaster of emotions. For me, as a social worker, I feel the need to be actively involved in what's going on, especially in my city. I want to know what's happening, which is why I've attended a few of the protests.
Right. That's good. As for myself, being a Black man, it actually hurts. I mean, I wish I could be much more articulate, but it hurts, man, to actually see that here in 2020 we still live in a world that has so much hatred towards Black people, people of color, and the systemic racism that still is woven into the fabric of our society. It hurts. And then to see a person's life just taken,
Yeah.
literally murdered, and with no regard to that individual, and it being I don't know, like it being stem through race. It's like, well, there's no legitimate reason why that person was murdered. Not to say that there is a legitimate reason for anybody to be murdered, but just for somebody's life to be taken senselessly. It just, again, it just hurts. It does feel pretty. I feel pretty optimistic to see this being a change agent, this being a catalyst to a lot of change that we've been looking for and yearning for. To see the individuals across the world actually moving in unity and solidarity, supporting one another, and it being a diverse message and a diverse voice from people of all ethnic groups, races, supporting this movement. So to me, that is it makes me feel optimistic. Keedra, you had mentioned about being a part of a protest. We're gonna be marching on Friday at 1 o'clock. If you're interested, we can talk more, about it. And we're gonna be doing some things on Sunday as well. So it'll be this Friday and this Sunday as well. So it'd be just, again, to, like you said, be a part of this movement, solidarity, supporting our local communities. But again, as a Black man, I wish I could find a different word, but I'm just hurt, man. It's horrific to just see that people hate you so much that your life isn't of value, and it just hurts. And it's just a horrific act that the world has had to witness. And my heart goes out to them, specifically to that gentleman, George Floyd, and his family.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with you, Barry. It is very hurtful. I understand the anger because I feel it myself. And it's just like, why are we dealing with this in the year 2020? But I was sitting down with my dad the other day and we were talking. I was sitting down with my dad the other day and we were talking, and he remembers when King was killed. Okay, so what that said to me is, though, even though we say, why are we still dealing with this in 2020? We still have people alive that lived through civil rights. You know what I'm saying? And so it really has not been that much long ago that they were fighting for civil rights,
Right.
Just my dad, you know what I'm saying? He remembers, he was telling me how he was working for the city and how he had to, he was telling me how he got out of Morgan. He went to Morgan University, telling me, by the time he left Morgan, how he was just like this militant, had this militant mindset. You know what I'm saying? This is my dad. This is just one generation above me. You know what I'm saying? So it really, even though we say we're still dealing with this in 2020, to be quite honest with you, it really has not been that long that
no, not at all.
Since our parents and grandparents, were fighting for rights, the same things that we are fighting for today, So it's just a reminder that, there's still work to do. Don't get complacent. You know what I'm saying? Not to get complacent as a community. Mm-hmm. And that as a community, there is still work to be done. And just because we don't have to sit in the back of the bus, just because we can sit at the lunch counter, just because we can drink from the same water fountain, just because we can go to the same schools, does not mean that the work has ended. You know what I'm saying? There's still work to be done. And so that's when that anger and that hurt kind of rises up in me, that's just what, I have to remind myself is that, we're living in a time where the work still has to be done, And so to transmute that anger and to transmute that hurt into something productive, right, for us, for our community, for our children, for our grandchildren, for our great grandchildren, our nieces, nephews. You know what I'm saying? We just have to take that anger and that hurt and just transmute it into something that's going to build up our community. Because we can sit here all day long. I can sit here all day long and run down history to white folks who have something to say about the looting and the rioting. And the main one that I go to is Tulsa 1921, when y'all white folks burnt down not only buildings and homes and businesses, but people. Right. You know what I'm saying? Every black person that came into your fight. So before you want to get on your soapbox or your high horse about how black folks this looting and rioting and how people are losing their businesses, so the fuck what, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Because in 1921, white folks came and burnt everything down. Did y'all know that they even have Black Wall Street even had an airport? I think they said 2 airports. I read 2 airports. You know? And they burnt it all down. So that's why I said burn it all to the ground. While y'all looting and rioting, I'm for it. Just burn it all down. Because it don't belong to us no way. You know what I'm saying? It don't belong to us no way. The Targets don't belong to us. The Waffle House, even though I love Waffle House, I don't have to touch the Waffle House. You know what I'm saying? You know, but all of that doesn't belong to us anyway. You know, and I would love to see another Black Wall Street, you know, rise out of the ashes. You know, so. All right, guys. All righty. Let's move on to our topic. The first topic that we have today is, Barry, this was your suggestion. This was you submitted this topic. Being his mama versus being his wife.
Well, interestingly enough, man, in the doctoral program, there's a gentleman, and I can't remember his name, and I'm paraphrasing everything that I can remember, but his dissertation is another brother, and his dissertation basically revolves around how black women baby their sons and raise their daughters. So there's a couple of different aspects that I want to actually kind of touch on as it relates to being his mama and being his wife.
Say that again. Say that again for the people in the back. What did for the sons or what did I do with the sons? What did I do with the daughters?
So again, I'm trying to make reference to the gentleman because that's where I got it from. So there's a gentleman at UNF, another brother who is in the doctoral program, who his dissertation focuses on how black women raise their daughters and basically baby their sons. They don't hold them to the same standards or accountability as they hold their daughter. Okay, so that's one of the perspectives of being a mama versus being a wife that I want to take a look at or just have a conversation around. And then the other one, just, you know, in traditional or typical sense about how women or try to be your mother, tell you what to do, and, you know, playing the role of, hey, I need you to be my wife versus my mother. So those are just 2 perspectives that I wanted us to just kind of talk about. Like, what do you all think? Especially the one about raising the daughters and babying your sons. You know, especially with the climate that we're currently in, I think that'll be a great conversation because I've actually seen it, man. Like, I can actually almost testify to it in how my mother treats me versus my sister. Like, there's an obvious difference between the interaction between my mother and I, and then my sister and my mother. And although it be subtle, but you can feel it. Like, there's almost a little bit more grace. Like, so here it is. I'm 40 years old, and I'll go out of town for business, or I'll go out of town for pleasure, and my mother will have a conversation with my sister, like, well, is your brother gonna be okay? Like, I've been traveling for years. Like, I've been away from home since I was 18. And my mother still has this protective thing over me that says, like, is he gonna be okay? And then with the recent climates, it almost perpetuates her fear or her concern. Like, is my black son gonna be okay in this world? Whereas with my sister, she's more so like, you know, she's fine. She'll get it. she's okay. So I'm just curious, what are your thoughts?
Really?
Do you think there's some validity to that?
See, I would think it would be the opposite. I would think that it would be for you, he's fine, he's okay, you know. And then for
But
your
even
sister, it would be more so, is she going to be okay? Is she going to be good?
but you get that more from the like. So for my father is like, hey man, you're a man. Be independent. Uh, if you need help, come ask for it. But he doesn't coddle me that way, whereas he may coddle my sister a little bit more, like daddy's girls and mama's sons or boys. So I even in the years of just teaching, here's a great example. I think it's a great example. So I've been working with youth for over 20 years, and
Okay.
at one point I was a program director, running after school programs, summer camp programs for about 4 or 5 years, and I could tell immediately like which young men had fathers in the household. Now this may be offensive to some people, but it just seemed like, and even now teaching, you'll see the young men not being held accountable to their lack of actions or the decisions that they make. And a lot of times the mothers come to their defense. Like my son is this and so I've seen it with my own eyes, and I'm just curious, like, am I overgeneralizing? Is there some validity to that? So that's where you guys give me your thoughts.
No. I was waiting for it to catch up for Erica. Erica, what do you
Okay.
think? Let's hear your social work background perspective, Erica.
I think that specifically in our culture, a lot of times the mothers do hold close to their sons, but that's something that's kind of been throughout history. So like if you think about it, during times when mothers and their children were continuously separated, because that bond created issues for wherever they were.
Right.
So, and there's a book that I read. I can't think of the title of it right now, but it talks about the psychology of being a slave and how certain things have kind of gone through where we still hold on to things just because, as we mentioned earlier, ago. So there's some things that we hadn't really let go of, but that's because we don't recognize that it's there or why we're even doing it. And then there's the idea of, well, if the father is not in the picture or the father is not necessarily the ideal role model, the mother will hold close to the son because they don't want the son to be like that father. But what happens is a lot of times women take on the head of the household role. So they continue. So they're still seeing the man as somebody that they need to tell what to do because they're assuming they don't know what to do because they may have been coddled or they may be considered a mama's boy, whatever the case may be. And so they feel the need to constantly give instruction in order to get things the way that they want it. So there's a lot of different angles you could come into it where you end up in a place where it's like, okay, are you my mom or are you my wife? Because I thought I married my wife. If I wanted my mom, I could have stayed at home. And then you have men who they don't necessarily, or their mom won't allow that whole move and cleave part to take place. And they just kind of hang on to, because I know when I was my ex-husband's mom had issues with me. And so she would do things, in my opinion, that kind of undercut me as his wife. So, I'll admit I wasn't the best cook, but she would like make sure that he had all of his favorite meals. She didn't like the way I cleaned. She still shopped for him, like buying clothes and stuff. And I was like, what a are we doing here?
Right. Right.
So, there's a lot, so many different angles to come at it, but I'm one of those. Part of my personality, even though I tend to project myself as strong, I want a man in my life who is able to be the head of the household. Which means for me as a woman, I'm not going to be like, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. I'm not going to nag, and I'm not going to treat you like you're the child, especially if you have children, because I've heard people say, I have 2 children, but then I have my husband, so that counts as 3. And I'm like,
right.
You're really kind of criticizing your husband there.
No,
but I can see. I think I can see how a woman can. I think I can see how a woman can say that though, because it's like you're taking care of. I mean, I don't know. I'm not married and I don't have no kids, so but I can see how a woman can say that or maybe feel like that because just being a woman and nurturing the house, you also have to, or you may also find yourself nurturing your husband as well. Does that make sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense. I actually think both men and women both play all of those roles for that particular gender. So if you're a woman and your wife, I think, and I could be reaching here, but I feel like if you're a wife, there's a moment where you do play a mom. I feel like you do play a best friend. You do play a lover. As a husband, I think there are times I've had, not that I've been Melissa's father, but I've definitely had to give us direction. I had to be a pillar of confidence and security, a role that her dad would have played prior to us getting married. So no, I'm not her father, but that emotional piece or whatever it is, I felt like, okay, you need to step up and fill that space right now. Whether you want to call it a father, I'm not trying to be her daddy, but again, it's like, hey, in some situations I've had to say, no, this is the direction we're going. And then some people are like, well, you're not my daddy, but I'm like, as your husband, as a leader, like I can sense and know that this is going to be the best thing for us, although you may be not agreeing with me in this moment, but just trust me. And then moving forward, when she's lost grandparents, or even when I lost, significant, when I lost my aunt, my mother's twin, my wife was there consoling me, and so not as my mother, but it still plays that part. There are times where she's like, hey, have you eaten? Because like once I get busy, like I don't think about eating. She's like, hey, did you eat? So it depends on who the two people are. Like if you enable somebody, I think that's another element to it. Like if you're nurturing and they just take advantage of it and they don't reciprocate, or they don't, if they don't reciprocate or play the other part. Because I have a good friend of ours. They have a traditional setup that works really well for them. She takes care of everything inside the house. He takes care of everything on the outside. Cuts the grass, washes the cars, fixes everything. And that works for them. So I think when I ask the question, I think it's more in terms of like, how do women treat men? Like, because you feel like he's less than or he can't, do you talk to him that way? You know what I mean? Like, is your vibe or your energy towards your man as though he's not capable or doesn't have the capacity? Or you, like Erica just said, when someone makes a joke, which I don't find to be funny, like, well, I have, 2 kids or 3 kids, including my husband, like that kind of undermines or, devalues a husband. Like, and I've seen women kind of cut the legs off or demasculine. Is the word demasculine? Demasculine, whatever the word is. Where they take away the masculinity of a man.
Emasculate.
Just how she treats him in public or the statements that she makes. So, yeah, I've seen that quite a bit.
Yeah, I've seen that as well.
Right.
I've seen that as well. But just to not veer away from the topic too much, but it can also go the other way around too. Not just being his
I
wife.
Can't hear you, Keedra.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Barry? Okay. So it can also go the other way around as well, in terms of not just the wife, also acting like a mom, but just like Barry said, sometimes you find men being the father role as well. I think that's what kind of scares me a little bit when it comes to relationship or when it comes to marriage, because excuse me, because I've been single, I've never been married, okay, and I don't want to get into a marriage and feel like my husband is also trying to be my father. That scares me. Like, I ain't nobody's child, because I have men in my life, okay, family, that tries to do that with me. And I had to remind them, I'm not your child. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a fear of mine when it comes to marriage, is I don't want to get in a marriage and, he get to acting like he's my daddy.
What does that look like? What does that look like when somebody's trying to be your father?
Just like trying to tell me, now there's a before, let me just preface this by saying, understand that there may be a direction that the two of you as a couple want to take together and lead yourselves and lead your family. But I don't want nobody like trying to tell me what to do, how to live my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want nobody to tell me what, like, maybe trying to change me, and not necessarily change me. Like, I'm receptive to good suggestions of change. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want
So is
nobody
it
to change me to fit
so
their idea that they have. And if that's the idea that you have and I don't fit that, then go find her.
so am I hearing you correctly? Like, it's a good suggestion if you agree with it. Is that what you're saying? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like so then, that's kind of tricky. That's kind of problematic. I'm like, well, only if you agree with the suggestion or the direction, then it's okay.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to change something about myself that, I mean, it depends on what the suggestion is. But I'm not going to change something about myself that. So, for instance, okay, let's just
Okay,
give this as an example. I'm growing my
please.
locks, right? Okay, I'm growing my locks, locking my hair. I don't want nobody coming in and telling me how, it may look, it looks well right now, we're in the locking stage, so I really can't do nothing to, the top till it locks. I don't want nobody coming in telling me that I need to change my hair up because it doesn't fit their idea of what or how a woman should look. You know what I'm saying? I'm not,
Understand.
then you need to go. I'm not the one for you, so it's things that, like, that make me me. I know who I am, and I've done the work on myself. You know what I'm saying? And those things you're not going to change. You know what I'm saying? Um, for for your benefit. Does that make sense? Those are the things that I don't want changed. Now, if it's something that I can be like, you know what? I agree with you on there. I agree with you on that. Then I'm good with that change. But if it's something where I gotta change like who I am, then I can't do it. And I don't want to do that,
Right. Well, I know for myself, um, I've actually had to grow. Like, I literally have had to grow. Well, let me back up a little bit. Like, marriage is work, like real deal. Like, if you're gonna have a successful marriage, it's a lot of work. there's trials and tribulations, and there has to be space for where you stick it out with somebody to let them grow. Because earlier in our relationship, I mean, I was literally a kid and I have no concept of taking care of family, being a husband, other than what I've seen, and even what you see, you don't really know or own it. So I can remember having boxes that I was trying to place Melissa in, like how she should look, what her hair, but and she ended up having to, basically emancipate herself. She's just like, look, I'm going to do what's best for me as it relates to that. And I respected it. Like I had to grow to respecting it. And literally like once she came into her own space, it was like, well, I actually find that much more attractive than the person I was trying to create her to be. You know what I'm saying? And I say create, but it was just limited scope. You're like, well, I think this is what it should be. So for me, I appreciate the fact that and I think both of us would have done that to some regards. Like I'm not this kind of guy, that she may have not necessarily wanted me to be, but there's elements that she's like, hey, I think I would like for you to do this. And and I'm saying, well, no, that's not my personality. That's not the vision I have for myself. So we had to literally reason and work these things out and go through that negotiating process, that development of creativity. Like where we're creating our lives, what we're going to look like for years to come. Like we had to go to the thinking tank and brainstorm and create and break down and build back up. So that element of marriage and relationship, I think people need to understand it exists. But on the other side of the coin, like there are times that I'm saying, hey, you may need to consider this. I'm not trying to be your father, but you may want to consider this if you're looking for a different outcome. If I'm the closest person to you and I see this pattern that you're in and you keep coming up with the same results, I'm saying, well, Keedra, Melissa, Erica, maybe you need to try this. And it's not me saying you need to change as a person, but just in your character development or your skill set, you may need to add this in as a skill or a trait so that you can get a different result, a different outcome.
And see, I can appreciate that, right? But see, the problem that I have run into in past relationships is that people don't like, and myself included, okay? It's hard to give somebody the room to grow because I can just speak for myself. It's like you wonder, it's hard to stick that out because you wonder, will they grow? Will they take your suggestions, or will they take what you're saying? And then even flipping it, like I have my past relationships, I've never had somebody to stick that out or stick things out with me and give me the room to grow. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So moving forward, that's kind of scary for me. So I just be like, peace.
Well, love and marriage is an act of faith. You know what I mean? Like it is a faith walk. You trust and believe, but in addition to trusting and believing, you put in the work. So one of the things that I think we all fail to do is focus on our own personal growth. What I've seen quite clearly with Melissa and I, like we have grown as people when we've made decisions to develop individually. Like, hey, you're so busy looking into somebody else's lane and monitoring and measuring their growth, whereas you should be more concerned about your own growth.
Mm-hmm.
You should be more concerned about being a better person and developing your own skills. Because oftentimes in these relationships, they either force that person to develop as well, or in some cases you actually grow apart and you be like, all right, well, this isn't the relationship that I'm supposed to be in. But where I've seen us sharpen one another as we're growing, like, hey, it forces the other person to grow. But what I do see is too often we're not holding people. We're holding people to standards that we don't even hold ourselves to.
Yeah,
That's true. And then there's also the kind of difference between challenging another person or challenging your partner to grow and then just being nitpicky. Because I think a lot of times that's where you run into issues. And it's like, the husband may be doing his thing and doing great at it, taking care of the household, but you're concerned about some small stuff.
Right.
That's like, okay, but is that really a big deal, or is there something else going on with you? And I see, I've seen in other relationships where that's what becomes the issue, and that's where a man may be like, "You are not my mother. You are my wife.
Yep.
I am taking care of the family. Why are you concerned about this thing that makes this much difference?" And again, I've seen this happen where it's something that's going on within that woman where she hasn't addressed stuff, so reaching out to the other person in the partnership versus reflecting and saying, okay, what do I need to work on? I know I had and this was not necessarily within my relationship, but there was a point in my life where I was finding little stuff with all kinds of people, and then one day I took a step back and I was like, I can't be having all these same issues with all of these people. It might be me. Not enough people do that.
Right. That's profound. That's so mature of you, having that level of intellectual maturity and intelligence. So yeah. But even with the nagging piece that you were talking about, Erica, I see that with guys a lot, man. Just men and women are just built so different. It's almost comical. Like with Melissa or anybody, like for me, I'm so task oriented. I'm like, okay, give me the task, and then go leave me alone. I'll get it done. Like I don't. So
yeah.
So to be nagged, it's like, nah, man, I heard you the first time. Either, I'm a move
but
on
did you really hear the first time? Because sometimes I would have had. Yeah, I know what guys had to repeat a few times.
But here's the thing, man, that concerns me. Like, well, with guys, I'm like, well, two things that could, there's a couple of different perspectives. Do men not suggest things to women? Like, do they or do they not? And if we do you move on it the first time every time? You know what I'm saying? So there's a level of grace that has to be extended. Like either you 100, you're betting 100%, and you just perfect every time I tell you I have an issue or a suggestion or need something, you're just spot on it. Or do I not ask you at all? So we have to really consider those perspectives. Because I know with Melissa and I, there are times like, well, I'm not saying anything, and there are times I do ask and she hadn't done, but I got to give her the same grace that I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I think that's a good place to go into the next topic about accountability.
Okay. Yeah.
And extending grace, okay, and then being accountable for your own stuff, right?
Right.
So what? Like, I mean, to me it seems obvious. Like, should you be held accountable? Absolutely. Should I be held accountable?
It does seem obvious. But it does seem obvious, and it seems like it should be simple, but it's not always. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, you have to hold on, I'm trying to update it.
Yeah, man. My first thoughts are like when you're in relationships, whether it's a man-woman romantic relationship or just friendship, Like it's hard to be in a relationship when people who aren't don't allow themselves to be
Or
accountable. Like
not
that's
just
tough.
not just hold on, let's do this. Not just a man woman relationship, but any romantic relationship.
Or in, or any relationship, even us. Like the three of us are here on this podcast together. Like if we were to the place where we wouldn't even allow ourselves to be held accountable, especially if you're being called to the mat. Now, if there's some things that we haven't discussed with one another or hadn't
Mm-hmm.
brought up, that's one thing. But if someone between the three of us say, "Hey, you need to pull up in this area," and you're not, open to being receptive or being held accountable or reflecting to be like, okay, there may be some truth or validity to it. That makes it difficult to be in a relationship
Right.
or any kind of partnership. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, okay, I see. Bentley. Here we go.
I think a lot of times people avoid discussions too that create the environment for accountability.
Yeah.
They just avoid, you kind of brush things under the rug, whether it's something you need to work on yourself or something you see in somebody else and you just kind of let it go without, as you said, Barry, calling them to the carpet. Like, hey, this is a challenge, or this is a problem, or this is what I'm noticing, and maybe you want to work on X, Y, Z. Sometimes we just assume that things will work their way out. And then a lot of times it ends up doing more damage than good, or you end up wasting time that could have been, which that could have been avoided if you just speak up about what is actually on your mind. Or if it's, something that you need to deal with yourself, like taking the look in the mirror and saying, wait a minute, I keep seeing this pattern. I know it's not them, it's me. What do I need to do differently?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I see in, I'm going to say, now I'm not going to say young relationships, but I will say immature relationships where you do the tit for tat. Like, so if you're calling somebody to the mat and their immediate response is to deflect and then say, well, you aren't doing such and such and such, that is a recipe for destruction. I'm like, we're going nowhere fast. If I can't tell you, like, hey, this is a concern or an issue, without you saying, without you pointing out all of my flaws and all of the issues you have with me, then we'll never get anywhere.
I have somebody in my life that does that every single time. Not like a romantic relationship, but just a relationship on another level. Every single time they do that, and so it's hard. So knowing that relationship and that situation, it's hard to move forward in building any type of relationship with this person because it's always a deflection, instead of
Yep.
just and that's my main argument with them. Excuse me. That's my main argument with them. Just listen and take accountability for what I am saying to you, and that's not to put all the blame on them, but I do believe that the seed or the issue begin there with them. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
and so it's just like, okay, I hear what you're saying. Yada yada yada. But anyways, that
No, I
it's,
get it.
it's very hard moving forward in a relationship with someone who does not know how to take accountability. And then like you said, they're always deflecting. And every time you say something, then it's like they throw something back at you. And sometimes those things can even that they throw back at you can be made up just so they can have something to throw back at you.
Yeah, that, and also I'll put this out there because I've been guilty of this. You have to be vocal. You have to be willing to express yourself because I know a lot of times, and I'm going to generalize with a lot of men, like you, or even people, just say women and men. You'll not express your true feelings, right? So then you're holding something in that bothers you until they say something. Whereas, yeah, now it does look tit for tat. Even if you're legit invalid in how you feel or your request, but you should have expressed it. You should have said it versus just allowing something
Right.
to take place that you're not comfortable with, and then finally blurting it out when somebody calls you to the mat. So I
Yeah.
know I've been guilty of that. Like, well, nah, create platforms so that you can share your frustrations or your disappointments or your desires, so that you don't do the whole tit for tat, or appear to be deflecting or actually deflecting. So yeah, man.
I think
Yeah.
periodically people need to basically like take a temperature, you know, to figure out what's going on where they are. And that even if that means it's similar to like how you on a job you have an evaluation, like
Right.
have some time where you set aside, you know, every few weeks, every few months, and like, okay, where are we? You know, a state of the household meeting. You know, where
You have
are
to.
we? What's going well? What's getting on my nerves? What do we need to work on?
You're
Yeah.
laughing, Erica, but I am a firm believer, man, that, and I think a lot of people may feel this way, but your house, your marriage, your relationship, your home, your family, it's an organization, you know, and we want our organization
Yeah,
to thrive. We want it to be exceptional, and it requires that level of
yeah,
intentionality. Like, yo, we need to meet. We need to have conversations. We need to have growth mindset.
yep.
So I dig it.
I like that growth mindset. I like that
Yeah.
even going into something, have a growth mindset because you, it's this, it. I don't want to tell that part. Oh yes, a growth mindset.
No, we need all the context. What was that other part? Don't leave
I'm
that
gonna
out.
wait. No, I'm gonna wait on that. But
Okay.
a growth mindset. But
Listen,
I also think that it is important to know the difference between growth, okay, and someone trying to change you. You
that's a
you
good point.
there is a difference. I'm receptive to growth, but what I'm not receptive to is you trying to change me and bringing judgment on me and then trying to change that. I'm not
So
receptive to
so
that. And
so do
that's what
you
I'm
know the
afraid
difference?
of in relationships. I'm just like, you know,
Do you know the difference? Because we actually had the conversation last week. Myself, Melissa, my sister, my youngest son. Like, well, what is judging? When people like you judging me or you trying to change me, like what does that look like? You know, because I'm just curious. Like, we didn't come up with a definitive answer. That conversation was tabled. So, what is it to you?
um judgment is, when it's hard to describe, but you
Right.
don't you I mean, it's hard to give verbiage to, but don't you know when you're being judged?
I honestly, man. So when we were in the conversation, the part the perspective that I came from was in today's climate. I feel like a lot of people throw up "I'm being judged" to defend themselves from not wanting to be accountable or not wanting to grow. This is Barry's opinion. I'm like, well, because I see it being thrown out a lot. They're like, you're judging me. I'm like, well, am I judging you, or what your behavior isn't warranted, or your behavior is counterproductive? Like, does that mean I'm judging you? Like, if I'm seeing you do something, if I see you doing something and I make observation of it, that means I'm judging. I haven't passed the verdict. I didn't say you're a bad person, but what I am saying is, if you continue with those behaviors, you're never gonna get a man. You know what I'm saying? So am I judging? I'm like, well, say never. That would probably be judging, but it'd be like it's gonna be difficult for you to be in a relationship if you continue to behave in that manner. If you don't heal, or if you don't allow yourself to be held accountable, like, is that judging? Is that trying to change somebody?
Okay, so I'll give a very elementary school example, right?
Okay.
So, like I said, I'm locking my hair. Okay.
Okay.
I was talking to somebody and they were like, "Oh, it's so pretty." And I was like, "Thank you." It's in 2-strand twist. Okay. "Oh, it's so pretty." Yada yada yada. I was like, "Thank you." And I was saying, yeah, I 2-strand twist it so that I can, lock my hair. The response was, it's gonna get tangled. And I said, yeah, that is the purpose in
Right.
essence. You know what I'm saying? To lock it up. And the next thing was not necessarily judgment with words, but it was judgment in their body language. Okay. And it was
Okay.
like, why would you want to do that kind of look? You know what I'm saying? And then I just kind of, changed the subject. To me, that was judgment.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Judging locks, or judging the process of locking my hair, and my hair is going to be tangled, and yes, it's going to be locks, and it's not going to be curls anymore. You know what I'm saying? To me, that was
So
judgment. They were just like,
Mm-hmm.
like, mm. That would not be seen as judgment to you.
you know something,
Like,
um,
why would you do?
I
Why would you want to lock your hair? That's
and
judgment.
so I don't know if I'm being naive,
I think
but but part of me feels like, well, is it judgment if they have a different perspective, or if they have that question, like, why would you do that? Like, why would you take your nice, what's considered in their mind your nice hair and lock it? So, is that judgment, or is that them having a limited scope, or a different scope, or a different lens? I don't know.
But isn't that where judgment is rooted from? Having a limited lens or a limited scope?
Everybody has a limited scope. So
In some areas, yeah.
yeah,
In different areas, yeah.
we need Erica. I need you to chime in here and help us, because I need you to tell us what this. Come on now, tell us what judgment is. I don't know,
so.
Keisha.
What one of the things that I think about one of the things that I think about when I think about when people consider something judgment is the delivery of it and how
Okay.
it's received. Like the example that Keedra just gave about the person, the way their tone of their voice, their body language, things like that
Gotcha.
makes a difference in whether or not it's perceived as judgment.
That's good.
And then, but accountability is more focused on, like we mentioned, growth mindset. Accountability is more focused on like a goal. Like if I know, for example, if I know, Keedra, you plan on locking your hair, that means that you need to leave it alone for at least a month, if not longer, in order for it to lock. But then you're constantly messing with it and constantly doing stuff to it. And I was like, Keedra, you got to leave it alone. Well, that's holding you accountable because your goal was to lock your hair.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Like that. No, it does. The tone.
I'm not criticizing you, but
yeah,
of what your goal is.
Right. Because that same question that person asked could definitely come with a different tone and a genuine curiosity of like, hey, why you why'd you decide to lock your hair, or why are you doing that? Like a genuine curiosity. Right. Now that's okay. But does that, I don't know, like the whole judgment and changing you is like, for me, there's a very evasive border that often gets crossed, and I'm even 20 years later I still be trying to understand it. So, but I am understanding better, like with your tone and your posture. But when you say changing you, Keedra, if somebody's like trying to change you, well, trying to aid you in being better, I don't see how that's trying to. Well, maybe everybody's being changed to some degree.
But there's a like, I'm cool would you aid in me in being better? And I know the areas in which I can be better. And then I'm sure that in relationships, things come out, that show you where you can be better. So I'm cool with that. But what I'm not cool with is, for instance, you just trying to come and just like change up my whole, like, who I am.
I get what you're saying. I mean, I get what you're saying. But now, when I say this, I don't mean to be offensive. But when you make the statement, like, I know what areas, that's almost narcissistic. It's almost like, well,
it's not at all. Because I'm saying that I'm self-aware. I'm saying that I'm self-aware. I am self-aware.
Okay.
That's not narcissistic at all. I am self-aware of the areas.
All the areas
I need to work. No. Not all of the areas, but I'm self-aware. I am very self-aware of some of the, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not, let me take that back, because I feel like I said that to appease you. Okay. So no.
Okay.
I'm sure that I am not aware of all of the areas. And that is because we are different people, single, than we are in a marriage or in a relationship with somebody.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So my single self, yes, I am aware of the areas in which I need to improve on. Very self-aware about that. Okay. Now, when I get with somebody, when I get in a relationship, in a committed relationship, when I get in a marriage, I'm sure there are going to be things that come up that I was not aware of, because now it's this thing with somebody. It's not just me. You know what I'm saying? So I can't say, yes, I'm aware of all, but I think that I have a pretty good awareness at this age of who my single self is, and what my single self is not. Okay.
Okay. I just, for me, I just want us to be, and let me speak for me, like, being pliable to the place where, like, there is a blind spot that I believe exists, and you have to be open to saying to somebody, not necessarily shouting out, but somebody bringing to your awareness that, hey, this is a blind spot that you're not aware of, and us being receptive to saying, all right, man, because if the goal is to be growth mindset, let's just say that's the universal, we all agree, we all want to be better tomorrow than we were yesterday. And if someone is coming into your life, all of us being partners, being friends, and we're saying, well, okay, if your objective is this and you haven't reached your objective, had you considered this? Like, you may want to consider this. And I just feel like, as a mature individual, you have to at least consider it before you denounce it. You have to, literally be like, all right, is there any validity to that? So, and then in some regards, like, has Melissa changed me? Absolutely. Have I changed her? Absolutely. And I think there may be changing the other person may have a negative, stigma towards it or behind it. It's like, nah, as long as we're changing each other for the better. Now, I'm not trying to change the nature of you or the core of who you are. If you are, like, I use Erica, for example, beautiful lady, and what I've come to learn, like, she loves the outdoors, academia, loves to read. If I'm saying, no, I don't read no more and we'll never go outside again, I'm like, well, that's a little bit different. But to share things with her, to say, hey, in the things that you're interested in, consider this so that you can move your desires forward, so that you could be even more whole or even better. Like, I think that's what I'm trying to get across.
Barry, so
my 2 cents.
A lot of times people have to practice the art of listening. You know, a lot of times people hear things through their defenses versus just listening to what a person is actually saying.
I agree with you, Erica. So Barry, before we wrap up, oh, Barry left us. I wanted him to hear this too. Here he goes. Hold on.
Get me out. I'm sorry. What were
Okay.
you were just saying?
So here's an example, right, of how I don't want to be changed. Okay. So I know how to speak up for myself. Okay.
You do or do not?
I do.
Okay.
I know how to speak up for myself. What I don't want to do, or how I don't want to be changed, is to get into a relationship with somebody or a marriage with someone. And because they feel threatened or a certain type of way about me speaking up for myself or having a mind of my own, is to then try to be changed into somebody who is docile. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody who is afraid to voice who they are, to voice their concerns, to voice their opinions because they can't deal with that. You know what I'm saying? That's how I don't want to be changed. Now,
great analogy. Keep going.
Now, if in the area of finances, okay, I can improve on that, on my finances, okay? And I understand that. And I know that. And I could use some help with that. You know what I'm saying? So that is something that I will allow somebody to come in and be like, you know what? If we change this and if we change that, then maybe we can get a different result, right? I'm receptive to that, okay? But what you not gonna do is you're not gonna have me dim who I am so that you feel comfortable. That is how I do not want to be changed. So when I think about being changed and not being changed, that's where that's where I'm coming from, you know?
I think that's a great analogy. I think that's a great example. I really wish Melissa was on the podcast because that may be an area where, because over the years, I've actually been the one with Melissa saying, not necessarily not speak up, but pick her use her voice wisely. Like that's always been my message. Like, hey babe, everything doesn't require your voice. You know what I'm saying? And my goal isn't to actually dim her light.
And see, I can respect that. I can respect that because you're absolutely right. I can respect that.
And but at the beginning, when I would say something, she took it as, yo, you don't want me to say anything. Can I say anything? I'm like, it's not that I don't want you to say anything. I'm just thinking like you may want to preserve your voice for things that are important. And then it was a conversation.
But who determines what's important though? You.
Exactly. So I'm just giving my opinion. Now, as a husband, I think I should be able to give I'm saying from an outside perspective, if we're in a restaurant and then you go into this confrontation with the waiter and the manager, and I'm thinking like, wow, this actually turned a bit much and it didn't really require all that. Like you didn't get what you, like if your goal was, I just want to be heard, then you got it. But if the goal was to have a nice dinner and enjoy your family, that didn't take place. So given a different perspective of just using your voice and preserving your energy.
So I can respect that and I understand that. Okay. So in that example, if we out at a restaurant, something go down and you just like, yeah, I get that. Okay. Preserve your voice. But if you're telling me to preserve my voice when it comes to something between the two of us, you know what I'm saying? Then that's when I have a problem. So what, you don't want me to say nothing about what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. And what I'm saying, like speaking up for myself, like dealing, interacting in, a relational type way. And that's where I do not want my voice to be dimmed. I do not want to preserve my voice. Well, I take that back, because you do have to know when there's a time and a place to say something, and I understand that. But what you're not gonna do is you're not gonna shut me up, though, is what I'm basically trying to say.
Right. But
You know what I'm saying?
even with that,
Because you got a problem with it.
no. Even with that, I mean, if you, in my opinion, I mean, if you're going to be in a healthy, effective relationship, whether it be man and woman or business partners, you have to understand that skill set. You have to have that skill set of knowing when to say something, when to bring it up, how to approach it, how to articulate it, so that you can get the end.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you like, I feel something, I think something, so I'm going to say something. That is the recipe for destruction. I don't believe in that. Like, every time you feel and think something, oh, I got to speak on it right now. I'm like, right now may not. I'm not saying don't. I am saying let's go about it with some tact, some skill, some wisdom. You know what I mean? Like, hey, let's go about it so we can get the end goal. If the end goal is to bring about change, then we have to do the things that we need in order to get the change.
No, I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree. All right, guys. We have gone over our time, and Bentley is reminding me of that. Okay.
Okay.
Bentley is letting me know, girl, it is time. Let's go. So, this has been a very good conversation. We'll have to finish up old school rules and new Bentley. Okay, I'm coming. We'll have to do old school, new school rules next week, and finish with that. But this was a really good conversation today, guys.
Yes, I thought so too.
Yes. All righty. Well, all is good. All is well.
It is, man. It is. Again, we're having the protest. The protest is on Friday at 1:00 at Impact Church. They're going to do a protest march at 1:00 starting at the church on Long Star Road. So if you're interested, please come.
Cool. Sounds good. All righty. All right, guys. You guys stay safe. You guys be good. And we'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you guys for joining in. We appreciate you joining in, chatting with us, listening to us. Bentley, stop it. Goodness gracious. We appreciate you joining us, listening to us, chatting it up with us. I didn't get a chance to get to all of the comments, but thank you for leaving your comments. We'll go back in, Barry, Erica, go back in, and let's just on Facebook, and let's just reply to the comments, since we didn't get a chance to address them as they were coming through. But we appreciate you guys. I love this time every week, and so oh, look at your fur, baby. There you go. Love this time every week, and I'm so glad to share this space with all of you guys. So I will see you next Tuesday.
All right. You guys take care. Talk to you later.
Have a good night. Bye.